Great. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our virtual town hall on Building a Better Chicago Park District. My name is Isaac Reichman. I'm Special Advisor to Superintendent Rosa Escareño, and I'll pass it to the Superintendent in just 1 minute. A little bit of housekeeping, though, before we get started, if we can move on to the next slide. To ensure audio quality, everybody is going to be muted during this session, so please make sure that your microphone is muted. We're also going to ask that you please keep your camera off until it is time for you to provide comment Q&A during that time. So please keep your camera off to ensure kind of best streaming quality for everybody here. When it is time for Q&A, you will be able to unmute and turn on your camera when you are called on if you would like. Additionally, closed captioning is available if needed. If you would like to turn on your closed captioning, you can follow the screen here. You can press the 3 dots in the top right corner and then go down to turn on live captioning. When we get to the Q&A portion, and I'll go over this again right before the Q&A, when we get to the Q&A portion, I ask that you please raise your hand before speaking or enter your name into the chat. And our moderator will call on you to provide your comment and public feedback. And again, I'll remind everybody of that process later on. But for now, I'm going to pass it to Interim General Superintendent and CEO Rosa Escarino, who's going to provide a brief presentation on the Office of Prevention and Accountability before opening it up for public feedback and comment. So, Rosa?
Can everybody hear me? Isaac,
Yes.
can you just, okay, great, thank you. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our virtual Office of Prevention and Accountability Town Hall. My name is Rosa Escareño, and I am the Interim General Superintendent and CEO here at the Chicago Park District. The intention of these events is to seek public input into our proposal to build a better park district, including through the creation of a new Office of Prevention and Accountability, which I will be referencing as OPA. This is a new era at the Park District, and we've been working hard over the last few months to ensure that we are building a district that is rooted in accountability, transparency, and respect for all of our employees and patrons. As you know, multiple investigations have made it clear that we must do more to ensure a safe and respectful workplace at the Park District. Throughout the months, we've heard from victims and other individuals that have faced some challenges, specifically young women and men, and my heart truly does ache for some of the issues that they had confronted and have been subject to some of the abuse at the Park District, which was unveiled through some of the investigations. As superintendent, you have my word that I will do everything in my power to make sure nothing like this ever happens again. To accomplish that, we must hold ourselves accountable to our employees and to members of the public, like all of you who are joining us today at this virtual town hall. This is the third of our town halls, but certainly we've held several other conversations with community and stakeholders, and they are part of our renewed commitment to accountability and to transparency. And I want to thank all of you for joining us on this open and frank conversation, as this helps inform how we continue to build a better district, and also will help inform how we structure this new Office of Prevention and Accountability. But before opening it up for public comment and questions, I will first give an overview of the new office and the rest of the work that we are also undertaking since I became interim superintendent in October. Before that, though, I would like to introduce some of the members of the Park District leadership team that are here today. There are several other staff members who are here, and if I just don't mention them, know that there are individuals here that are helping us to take notes and to ensure that we're capturing your feedback. But let me just introduce some of the leadership Park District leadership. So joining us is Daphne Johnson. She's Chief Programming Officer. Juliet Azimi, she's Chief Administrative Officer. Sandy Olson, she's the Director of Programming. Beth Tomlins, she's our Deputy Chief Operating Officer. Tiffany Sostrin, she's our Director of Government Affairs and Policy. Perla Gomez, Deputy Director of Human Resources. Joan Coogan, she's Interim Chief of Staff. Heather Kyle, she's our Senior Counsel, and I will be calling upon her as she's been the point person in drafting this legislation. Michelle Lemons, she's our Director of Communications. Irene Tostado, she's Deputy Director of Communications. And Isaac Reichman, who you've met just here in the introduction, he's special advisor to myself as a superintendent. And then finally, I also want to introduce Valerie Hayes. And Valerie, if you can just wave, she is a partner at the law firm of Arnold and Porter. Valerie led the independent investigation into management response to the allegations of sexual misconduct at the Park District. She has graciously offered to share a short presentation today on steps that organizations like the Park District can take to ensure accountability after workplace culture investigations like the one that took place here at the Park Dis. So Valerie, thank you for joining us today, and you will hear from her shortly. And as Isaac said, for those of you that are just joining us virtually, we are going to allow for questions and comments at the conclusion of my brief presentation. Since I became the superintendent in October, my primary goal has been to see the completion of the investigation into misconduct and to oversee the rebuilding of the Park District in a way that prioritizes safety, accountability, and transparency. Wrongdoers must be held accountable, which is why since the beginning of the Office of the Inspector General investigation, 16 employees have been terminated, resigned while under investigation, or were asked to resign. Our actions truly do speak louder than words, and we are sending a clear message that misconduct is not and will not be tolerated here at the Chicago Park District. However, to truly build a Park District that prioritizes the safety of all our employees and patrons, we must do a lot more. We must establish an organizational structure that makes sure something like this does not ever happen again. The new Office of Prevention and Accountability will do just that. And as you can see on this screen, I'm going to walk through some of the duties of the office. First, and most importantly, the office will be empowered to conduct independent, thorough, and fair investigations into allegations of misconduct, harassment, sexual misconduct, workplace violence, abuse and neglect of children or vulnerable adults, and retaliation committed by employees or patrons. Second, following the completion of these investigations, the office will recommend penalties. Third, the office would develop policies and procedures to make it easy for employees and patrons to understand their rights and know where to go to make complaints. Next, the office will also be responsible for providing recommendations to the superintendent and to the Board of Commissioners to improve the intake and investigation of complaints. The office will also be tasked with developing and maintaining relationships with community partners and stakeholders in order to stay up to date on best practices. And the office will also have a requirement to provide records and annual reports, not only to the superintendent and the Board of Commissioners, but to the public through our website. So those reports will be made public. That's part of our commitment to transparency. The new office will fulfill a critical function within the Park District. It is clear that the Park District employees have not felt confident that their complaints would get handled in an effective, independent, and timely manner. This new office will help resolve that problem and will be given the necessary staffing and resources to be successful, including 5 full-time employees who are highly qualified and dedicated solely to the investigations of this nature. It has become clear that under the previous structure, the employees handling investigations into sexual misconduct had multiple other responsibilities. These investigations will now be prioritized and given the resources necessary to give employees confidence that their complaints will be handled effectively. On this slide, you can see the timeline for the creation of OPA. We've been working diligently to get this office up and running. Last year, through the passing of the 2022 budget, we funded the office with $617,000 to establish the 5 positions. It became a priority as we led into this new year to ensure that we had the funding available to establish this office. In addition, these town halls, we have also shared this legislation widely for feedback, and we are also holding similar listening sessions like these directly with our employees to get their input. Next month, the Park District will be going before the Board of Commissioners, and the Board of Commissioners will have the opportunity to vote on the code amendments creating this office. And then we will formally launch the office by this summer. As this timeline makes it clear, we are taking deliberate and thoughtful steps to make sure this office helps bring about long-term protections and accountability here at the Park District. While today's town hall is intended to receive feedback on the new office, I want to be clear that the OPA is just one part of our efforts to build a safe and respectful Park District. That begins through accountability. And as I mentioned earlier, we remain committed to taking appropriate discipline whenever allegations of misconduct are deemed sustained. This commitment will continue throughout the ongoing IG investigation. We are also dedicated to full engagement and public dialogue. In addition to these town hall meetings, in addition to these town halls, we have held 10 roundtable discussions with current and former lifeguards, parents, and other Park District employees, as well as other stakeholders who have worked with us not only in discussions, getting their feedback, initially to actually establish this legislation. We did it through input from important stakeholders, but as we've moved through the final approval, all of this feedback is helping us, make sure that we are doing our due diligence and listening and making sure that we have not left anything out. Training is key as well. All of our 3,000 employees were required to complete sexual misconduct training by the end of last year. And earlier this year, we held the first ever aquatics conference, a 2-week session with 30 virtual trainings and team building exercise for over 300 aquatic employees. Reason why this is important is that had not happened before. And so we want to make sure that our aquatics team, whom we are very proud of because they do so much great work, we want to make sure that they are receiving abundant training on ways to continue to be successful. Finally, we have already implemented a number of policy changes to bring greater oversight to the aquatics department while helping that department be successful through trainings and other conversations that we have had. This work is ongoing and has included increasing frequency of communication. We've also heard from the team, and we're addressing longstanding IT and supply issues and changing policies to make it easier for lifeguards to attend the necessary trainings to ensure that they're up to date not only on areas of expertise, but also management and other district-wide policies. Finally, as we prepare for the 2022 beach season, we continue to work diligently to make the necessary changes and to make sure that we are prioritizing respect and accountability at the Park District. This means continuing to support all independent investigations and staying committed to training. We are building a robust curriculum for our summer season to ensure all employees, including our seasonal and full-time lifeguards, and importantly, our management staff, know how to prevent, identify, and respond effectively to misconduct. We are also building additional layers of oversight into our management structure for the 2022 beach season to ensure the highest level of accountability. Finally, we continue to review all of our policies to address systematic issues and bring more transparency and accountability to the Park District, not to solely aquatics, but through the entire organization. And again, while we continue to do this work, it is important that we continue to work on the policies and procedures and make sure that those are in place for the summer. As part of that effort, I have directed our facilities management to make upgrades to our beach houses. Making these improvements will send a message to our aquatics department that they are an important part of the Park District and that we value a safe and positive work environment for all of our employees. These efforts will continue to include, these efforts at the beach houses will include ensuring that there are separate changing areas for men and women lifeguards, and that these areas are separate from patron changing areas. So what you've heard me just walk through is a variety of changes that we have been working on over the last few weeks and months, but it's certainly that work continues. So this is, again, just the beginning and the initial steps as we move forward to creating a better Park District. Before I open it up for public feedback, I want to welcome Valerie Hayes, who I just introduced, who will provide a brief overview of general recommendations and next steps following workplace investigation cultures like the one that we just went through. So let me turn it over to Valerie. Valerie, thank you for coming and thank you for your commitment over these last few town halls, and you have the mic.
Thank you, Rosa, and good evening, everyone. I'm deeply appreciative to the Park District for including me in these town halls. Oftentimes when workplace culture issues arise in organizations, you see a lot of the same patterns of issues. And from those issues, you can form lessons learned and incorporate those into your programs to prevent similar issues in the future. And that's what the Park District has done to a large extent with the Building a Better Park District program and all the steps that Rosa was just speaking to you about. So I want to just briefly go over some of those lessons learned that organizations see. First, and I think one of the most important is having a trustworthy complaint process. Employees have to trust the process. They have to believe that when they go out on that limb and make a report, that it's going to be taken seriously, it's going to be acted upon. There's going to be proportionate discipline when appropriate. There needs to be investigators who are experienced in the issues being addressed. They need to have good people skills, good judgment, and they need to be neutral. If there's any sense that those who are conducting the investigations are biased, that's going to cause employees not to trust the process and to not report what could be very important issues to report. They have to trust that the issues that they raise will be thoroughly investigated. And I think it's important for each individual complaint that comes in that the investigators are kind of looking at it more holistically and are we seeing a pattern of issues? Are we going back through the various complaints over time and looking to see if there's any repeat issues coming back? And essentially, do we have a bigger workplace culture issue that needs broader investigation, talking to more individuals and really getting to the bottom of what could be a bigger issue? The second kind of category of lessons learned is related to prevention. Written policies and training materials or training programs are critically important, but we've learned and we've seen in these various organizations that have had issues over the years that's not enough. You really need to be proactive in talking to your employees, learning what's going on, how happy they are, what they're seeing. And that can be done in a variety of ways, as simple as managers just having that open door policy, good relationship with the employees, and then more proactively taking surveys or having focus groups or one-on-one interviews with individuals. And it's important that an organization's efforts to maintain a healthy workplace culture are dynamic. They change over time in response to whatever issues are coming up. You can't just have a program on paper or policies on paper and then never do anything to see if it's playing out, in real life. And I think it's important to tailor your preventative measures to the risks of your organization. Every organization is unique. Risks cannot be eliminated, but they can be addressed and mitigated and minimized to a certain extent. In terms of the risks that organizations see, there could be gender-based power imbalances. If the employees tend to be younger, just, teenagers, there's certain, or children, there's certain risks there, obviously, or young adults. If there's after-hours events involving alcohol, lack of clarity or neutrality in the investigation process that we just talked about, inadequate investigative resources, and a lack of transparency. I mean, the messaging that leadership in an organization sends about transparency is very important in terms of, employees have to believe that it's more than public perception that matters to the leaders of the organization, that they are actually committed to making sure that the employees are happy and have a healthy workplace culture. And lastly, leadership involvement. This all can't fall on the shoulders of one or two people in an organization. You have to have buy-in from, senior executives and board of directors or board of commissioners, depending on the organization, and middle management, and everyone needs to be part of the efforts to maintain the healthy workplace culture. So, thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. I'm sorry, I was trying to get myself unmuted after all these months. I'm still trying to get the hang of it. But again, thank you. And I just wanted to reiterate that what Valerie said. I think this is about not just a couple of people making strides to make a change. This is really to rebuild that trust with our employees and patrons. We must take an honest look at what isn't working and holistically build a new park district based on the pillars of safety, respect, and accountability. And I know for those of you that joined us from the start of the meeting, this is something that I've been repeating, and it's intentional because this is the direction that this entire agency is leaning towards, and this is a priority for us. Part of the effort involves identifying what we're also doing well. And I want to just take a moment to recognize the many incredible employees and the many incredible programs and efforts that these employees are working hard every day, who provide selflessly of themselves and are dedicated to serving our community and the patrons that they serve. We have such great employees, and certainly have identified a few bad apples, and we're definitely having to look at both, right? We want to make sure we're looking at what was not working and what isn't working going forward, but also making sure that we are taking pride in the work and the workplace that we have. We are such a vital part of the Chicago community, and we want to make sure that we are working with you, the public, to make our agency even stronger. So I just don't want to lose sight of the great work being done, while also recognizing that change is needed, and change is here and is coming as well. So now definitely want to open it up for comments, questions, and feedback. And again, the intention of this dialogue is to to receive the feedback on our new Office of Prevention and Accountability, and welcome the feedback on this office and all of our efforts to prevent misconduct and to hold wrongdoers accountable. So I ask everyone to, I think as Isaac indicated, put their comments in the chat. Let me ask Isaac to come back to just repeat some of the housekeeping and how we're going to be engaging. My goal is to, as I repeated, several staff members are online, and we will be taking notes. So Isaac, do you want to just quickly repeat how we're going to be engaging so we can proceed to opening it up for questions?
Great. Thank you, Rosa. And thank you, everybody, for joining. As is mentioned on this slide, we will have public comments now. We ask that everybody please be respectful with your comments. Additionally, we have over 80 participants today, so we ask that please be relatively brief so that you can give everybody the opportunity to speak. In order to provide public comment, I ask that you please raise your hand. For folks, you can raise your hand by clicking on the little smiley face with a hand raised on the top of your screen. Additionally, you can drop your name into the chat if you would like to provide public comment. When I will call on your name, and then you will have the opportunity to unmute yourself, and you will have the opportunity, if you would like, to come on camera in order to provide your comment. I will do my best to go in order. Again, with over 80 people, I do apologize if I don't get it exactly in order of when people raise their hand, but I will do my best to get these comments in order. Again, I ask that you keep them relatively brief and certainly keep your comments respectful. Our first, and I also apologize in advance if I mispronounce anyone's name. Our first commenter today is Lamont Williams, so we will unmute you and give you the opportunity to provide your public comment.
Good evening, everyone. The reason why I stopped by is I'm a resident over in the Austin neighborhood, and I've been noticing that we've been having some real problems out of people when they come into the park for the soccer tournaments. And I've complained several times. I'll keep it very brief. I'd like to be able to get an email so I can document some of the things that I'm saying here. But for some reason, we have people come into the park and they literally trash the park and they disrespect the residents that are here. Now, I have no problem with people playing sports. I like sports myself. But the thing is, in this community, I think that we all need to understand that we need to respect each other. No one's abiding by the permits or anything like that. And I have so many things to say that I don't want to take up much time, but I do want to know if there's someone that I could email or actually give my phone number to so that we could talk about the problem, because I'm speaking for a lot of older people in the neighborhood that have me come up and speak to you all because they weren't able to get on. Some people they're just elders and they don't even know how the technology works. So I was wondering, could I get somebody's information to contact them so I could actually give you some details on what I'm talking about as far as the park is concerned. And I'm over across the street from La Follette Park.
La Follette, that's what I was going to ask you, Mr. Lamont. So it's La Follette Park, or what park were you referring to?
La Follette Park.
Okay, great. And Mr. Lamont, can I ask that you actually drop your email into the chat, and somebody for our team will reach out to you to make sure that we give you the right contact person?
I'm sorry, it won't let me do that though.
I got it. I got it. Okay, so why don't Isaac, can you give the superintendent email? I believe it's park superintendent at chicagoparkdistrict.com. I just don't have it in front of me. Can we confirm that?
Yeah, I'll drop that into the chat, Mr. Williams. It's a superintendent.escareño at chicagoparkdistrict.com, and I'll type that in. That's superintendent. The chat so everyone has it.
And if you sent your emails, we have people looking at those emails and making sure we're responding to the comments. So, but thank you.
Yeah, and again, that's superintendent, superintendent.escareño, ESCARENO at chicagoparkdistrict.com, and we can get you connected with somebody to discuss that.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Next commenter, Emily Dupree.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Oh, here we go. Sorry, it wasn't letting me turn my camera on. Hi, thank you so much for hosting this meeting. I'm a resident of the South Side, and I just wanted to speak here today about protecting the South Shore Nature Sanctuary. I've been a volunteer there for a number of years, and it looks like the Tiger Woods golf course is back on the table. If it's carried out according to plans, it's going to destroy more than half of the sanctuary. So if you haven't been there, and for others in this meeting who haven't been there, the sanctuary is a very beautiful, biodiverse and accessible lakeside park. It's used by all sorts of people, cyclists and kids and families and birders and people who just want to be in nature. I'm happy to give you, Superintendent, a tour if you'd like. But the sanctuary has taken decades of work for it to grow and mature into the sanctuary it is. But unfortunately, the golf course plan specifically is to take over the peninsula on which the sanctuary sits, cut down all of the trees, get rid of the native prairie that's there right now, and turn it into a single hole for the expanded golf course. I have many concerns about this, but I'll just mention one of them right now, which is that if this goes according to plan, it's going to be a perpetuation of a more general trend in the US, which is the destruction of natural areas in low-income Black neighborhoods in particular. So researchers call this the nature gap. I'm sure you're aware of this, but one statistic among many is that only 23% of white communities are nature deprived. So you can think of the North Side, but 76% of low-income communities of color are nature deprived. So right now, South Shore, which fits this description, is extremely rare because it does have access to this beautiful sanctuary. But the prospect of destroying it is again on the table because of the golf course. And so not only is it an environmental concern and a community concern, but it's also a racial justice concern. So I just wanted to bring that up, urge you to come down here, visit the sanctuary, and ultimately stand against the expansion of the golf course into the sanctuary and work towards finding a different solution that preserves the South Shore Nature Sanctuary exactly with the boundaries it has right now. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Emily, thank you. And I've actually, I do know the that nature area, and I look forward to just being in the community. So thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. For our next commenter, I apologize if I mispronounce this, but Mirza Baig.
Mirza, can you unmute?
Mirza, you are unmuted if you want to provide your comment now.
Mirza, we cannot hear you. I'm not sure if you are able to join the comments.
I noticed my mic is unmuted.
We can hear you now.
Is this who I'm talking to?
No, so we're asking Mirza to speak. I think Catherine.
Yeah, right. I don't know why my.
Okay, Mirza, I'm not sure if you can join can you try again? And if not, we'll move on to the next person. You can raise your hand again. Yeah, for some reason, it's not working. So we will come back to you. Let's go to the next person.
Great. Next, and I would ask you to please introduce yourself. We have somebody here whose name is listed as M, and please introduce yourself when you give your comment.
Hi, this is M, Monica, and hello, Isaac and Rosa and the whole, I'm so glad to hear we've got a beautiful group of 80 or so people. I am I have there's a lot of emotion I have with regard to today's topic or the way it's been introduced. I got this beautiful email, town hall meeting, and I was expecting like the thrill of getting ready for the summer and how they want to prepare for the park districts all over the city. And the meeting opened up with OPA. I want to say that I am a Chicago resident. I've lived in Chicago all my life. I am also a swim instructor. I have been a swim instructor. I've also been a lifeguard, and I understand water safety and the enjoyment of aquatics. And I feel that there's something almost distorted about the way you're presenting this. It's almost like we're speaking a negative or focusing so much, almost predicting that something terrible is going to be happening. And I think we need to note the perception that you're bringing to all of us Chicago residents who care about our park districts. And it sounds like this town hall meeting was just for the OPA. And I really am disappointed that that wasn't conveyed better in the email that we got, because I wasn't prepared for that. I was getting ready to get excited about the summer and the wonderful park districts that we have. So now that this meeting is about OPA, I just want to say that I think that we need to be so careful. We're not projecting something onto the city that may not even be real in all parts of the city. Anybody who's done aquatics knows the atmosphere of a swimming routine. They've done it all their lives. There's people that know water and know how to work around water, and there's people who don't. So I don't know if the OPA is just directed toward the waterfronts or swimming. That we have beautiful pools like in McKinley. I don't know if you're just directing this OPA toward swim and the water activities or the park district in general. I'm sure it's the park district in general, but I just want to say that I really don't feel like it's appropriate for the leadership of Chicago to be projecting a perception onto our beautiful city parks as if there's this horrific violation of personhood that's been going on. And that's just not true. I'm a long-standing Chicago resident, and I have had so much enjoyment with the Park District. And like I say, I've been around aquatics and water safety and water activity. And there's a general sense of enjoyment you always have and have had. And I just want to make sure we're not projecting something onto this city and on the residents of this city that isn't real. We all want to be having proper conduct. We all want personhood to be honored. And I just want to make sure that we're not moving in a direction that's unhealthy. I think the key here is to focus on wholesomeness. The word wholesomeness to me is captures it all. If you're focused on a wholesome environment for family, friends, visitors, and the leadership is passionate about families and children and visitors to the city and users, like we just heard. We've got the soccer activity in one park. We've got the beautiful sanctuary in Lake Shore. If we have people who are passionate about the subject matter and about children, we shouldn't be having so much violation. And I really question if it's just a bureaucratic thing to be opening up another governmental office, and now we're going to have to pay taxes for this. So I just think we need to be holding everybody accountable for the proper purpose of what this meeting is about tonight, and that we're treating American citizens here in Chicago with respect and honor and not projecting something onto us that isn't really true. I'm not receiving everything that you're saying about this tendency. I just am questioning.
Monica, thank you. No, thank you. And, I'm so glad to hear your comments. This town hall, it was specifically to talk about the creation of the Office of Prevention and Accountability. But through these open forums, we certainly welcome all the input and feedback. I agree with you. The Park District is an incredible organization. And I think towards the closing of my presentation, I actually made that very clear that we are extremely proud and we want to make sure that we're embracing all the good things that we are doing. But there has been some problems that were identified through investigations that were reported widely. And so we also want to make sure we're being accountable and making sure that we're building a structure to actually make us better. And so certainly, I absolutely agree with you. This is intended to be a very honest conversation. And Monica, just one reason why we're actually having these town halls. We had already had roughly 10 roundtable discussions with parents and lifeguards and staff. And it was the parents that said to me and to the Park District, you must create more awareness about this office, and you must make sure that the residents of Chicago know what you're doing to make parents comfortable who may have questions about what we are doing. This is intended to ensure we are creating awareness. And so I absolutely agree with you. The negatives that have been unveiled through investigations about problems in the Park District are continuing to be investigated, but I want to reassure the public that we're doing everything possible to make sure that we're doing just that we're building a stronger Park District, because we know that many residents, children, young and old, are relying on all of our great programs. And I know that the communities embrace us, and we want to make sure that we are keeping parents and individuals engaged in our process. So I want to thank you for your comments, but I also, we have to have an honest conversation about how we fix those things that are not working, and also continuing to improve on the things that we're doing so good. And I'm glad that you are confirming that as well. So thank you. And we will take your comments and make sure that we're incorporating them into the feedback. So thank you again. We'll move on to the next speaker.
Great. Thank you, Rosa. Before moving on to the next speaker, I just want to remind everybody to please be respectful in the chat, and to please limit most of our public comment to folks that do raise their hand and provide comment. And with that, I'll pass on to our next speaker, MaToi. If you can please unmute your mic.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is MaToi. I serve as president of Skinner Park Advisory Council. I want to thank you for this opportunity to have an honest conversation. I apologize for not turning on my video, but I'm currently in the hospital. But I felt it was important for me to attend tonight and make these comments. I have read both the current code as well as the revised code a while ago, and I've read it several times. I've given it a lot of thought. And I feel very strongly that the code, including the revised part of it, does not protect volunteers enough. I've worked for 20 years in a volunteer basis as a park advisory council, or member, president, and in various formats to better the community and the parks. But I think that there's not enough protection in there for volunteers and for park advisory council members to speak honestly about wrongdoing. I think that while it's limited, there has been retaliation against park advisory council members for reporting wrongdoing. And I think that unless there is going to be a clear set of guidelines that allows park advisory council members and other volunteers to speak honestly and to report honestly and not fear retaliation, that there will be continued lack of transparency, as well as these various things that I think impact negatively onto the park district. I know I report wrongdoing, and I personally have been retaliated against, but I continue in my role because of my commitment to my community, not necessarily to the park district, but because I feel strongly that people should give back to their community and to their parks. So I'm here to give you this honest feedback. I hope that you take it in the nature that is given, because I want to work with the park district. And I know many park advisory council members do also. But unless there's an open and transparent way to protect
Hey, we're losing you a little bit.
continue. And I want to let you know that other park advisory councils have expressed to me this feeling of fear, of retaliation, and of people basically threatening to withhold resources from their parks. And that's a balance that many park advisory council members have expressed to me, and I have felt that as well. But being the person that I am, I have always stood up and fought against wrongdoing, and I will continue to do so. But I want the park district to understand that that should never have happened in the first place. Many park advisory councils work very hard to better their parks and community, but it should not be at the risk of going along with something that we know is wrong. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, May. If I can ask Heather to just briefly, Heather, who is our senior counsel and has been working on the drafting of this legislation, to talk a little bit about the protection that exists in terms of volunteers and other volunteers with the park district. And certainly we will take that feedback and make sure that we're reviewing that to ensure that these protections extend to everyone, patrons, workers, volunteers.
Yeah, as Superintendent Escarino said, I do just want to point out that the Human Rights Ordinance, including the mechanism for reporting to the newly created Office of Prevention and Accountability, is intended to apply to not only our employees, our board members, our officials, but also to our contractors, our consultants, as well as our volunteers. So absolutely, volunteers are covered individuals under our Human Rights Ordinance, and also should feel fully enabled or allowed to make reports to the Office of Prevention when they feel that they've been subjected to harassment, retaliation, discrimination, everything that OPA is intended to cover.
I just want to make the point that not all park advisory councils are required to fill out the park volunteer form. And I want to make it clear that the reason that many people don't feel comfortable signing the volunteer form for the park district is because when it was revised, about 15 years ago, it was not the one that I signed originally, but the one that was revised states that many people are asked to give away their rights. And in fact, those volunteer form currently conflicts with the role of a park advisory council. And I don't think it's right for the park district to ask people to give away the freedom of speech in order to volunteer for the park district. We know that we shouldn't be speaking for the park district. We should have a right to speak for ourselves and for our park advisory council. And those are the conflicts that has not been resolved, even though I've raised those issues numerous times. So I feel very strongly that currently the code as written, and I've analyzed it and thought about it, and not just in its sole state, but in relative to all the other issues with a park district and other forms, to make sure that they are in concert and harmoniously, and they're not. And that is the issue that I want to raise.
Okay, May, thank you. I think you've stated that. This is what we're going to do. Art Richardson is definitely on as well. I will ask Art Richardson to drop his email. You may already know him in chat. And I think this conversation needs to be followed up, because I think this is an important conversation, and this is very specific to our engagement with volunteers and advisory, park advisory council. So we will table this in this, but thank you for your input. We will follow up, and we will make sure that our law department will also look into this. So thank you, May. Okay, we'll go to the next speaker. I'm just trying to make sure we're embracing and allowing everyone to speak. We definitely don't want to keep everyone here too long, and we want to hear from everyone. So let's just go to the next speaker, but thank you, May.
Great, and our next speaker is Stephanie Franklin. If you can please come off mute.
I think I'm unmuted now.
Is this
Can you
Stephanie?
hear me?
Is it Stephanie?
Okay. Yes, it is.
Oh, hi, Stephanie. Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I have a serious problem. I'm agreeing 100% with May. I have a serious problem in my own Park Advisory Council. There have been allegations made against me, which are untrue, and I have been unable to get any evidence or validation of these allegations from the risk management department. In fact, who told me that he was being arbitrary and that he wasn't going to change his mind. But I need to know what the evidence is that proves that validates the evidence against me, because I'm not willing to accept a decision that's made with false accusations that I have no idea how these allegations can possibly be. Okay, I'm not being very clear. I'm sorry.
No, but no, I absolutely understand. And Stephanie, what I would like is if you can drop your email, or what I can do is Art Richardson, who works with PACS, can certainly make sure we're making a connection directly with you, because this is a very specific situation, and we should definitely make sure we are providing you that response. So
can you please give me that name again?
Art Richardson. And you can certainly send an email to, again, the superintendent.escareno@chicagoparkdistrict.com, and we'll make sure that Art Richardson is connecting us to make sure we're following up with a response to your question. So thank you. And we will go on to the next speaker, but thank you, Stephanie. We will follow up. Thank you.
I will absolutely do that.
Thank you.
Great. And our next speaker is Mark Lipinski. If you can please come off mute.
Good evening. I'm a vice president with the Midway Plaisance Advisory Council, and I wanted to bring to your attention that there is a false narrative that there was community input into the selection of the eastern end of the Midway for UPAR replacement. The Director of Planning and Development was quoted in a neighborhood newspaper contributing to that narrative. There was no community input into the choice of the eastern end of the Midway for UPAR replacement of any sort. The selection was a top-down decision. Eleanor Gorski of the city's Department of Planning met with our advisory council and stated that the choice of the eastern end of the Midway for UPAR replacement was a done deal which could not be changed. We subsequently were visited by Abby Monroe from the city's Department of Planning, and she reiterated the position that the selection of the eastern end of the Midway for UPAR replacement was a done deal. Upon questioning, and this was on my questioning, she said that other UPAR replacement sites had been considered but refused to identify any one of those other sites. As part of the Section 106 review process, the City of Chicago eventually disclosed various other UPAR replacement sites it supposedly considered. There was no public consideration of any of those sites, so there's no way to verify the accuracy of the city's disclosure. We've submitted a resolution to your office, and the point of the resolution is that the construction of play structures on the eastern end of the Midway is inappropriate, would be contrary to the Olmsted design for open space at the location, and would place children's play next to multiple busy streets. They're going to be made busier with all of the roadway changes that are in that vicinity. The use of the Midway as a UPAR replacement site also wasteful in that there are nearby underserved areas that could get the resources that are to be put into that site. I respectfully request that the U-Power replacement site or U-Power replacement process, planning process be halted until there could be a community discussion open in a public forum where everybody can hear each other, like this meeting, where
Mark,
alternative sites can be presented. I would
Yes.
mention, if
Mark,
I may,
if I may,
Sure.
you said that you submitted a resolution to the parks. I'd like to have the opportunity to read that and then also have the opportunity to respond to some of the comments that you're making. But thank you for bringing this to light.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mark. Our next speaker is Diana Krasnonsky. If you can please go off mute.
Hi, I'm Diana. Thank you for having this event this evening. I'm not super knowledgeable about the Park District rules or anything like that. I'm a mom of a 7-year-old on a swim team, and I just wanted to share some of the things that I see on a daily basis. My daughter's 7, so she's one of the smallest swimmers, and one thing that I've noticed is that on her swim team, there are no female lifeguards and there are no female swim coaches. And it's probably about 85% female group. And I feel like that's kind of a mistake because we have a locker room full of little girls and none of the people who are supervising them can go in there. So that's a problem. Also, I believe that the swim coaches willfully ignore what's going on in the pool. I believe there are interactions going on that are not appropriate, and they let them happen. And what I've found is that the kids are very hesitant to report anything. And so if we don't have lifeguards and swim coaches who are actively looking at what's going on in the pool, that is also a problem because there's a lot going on that's very easy to see. I'm there, I see it. And I'm the one who ends up going down and saying, hey, can you keep these kids apart? So I understand that you said there was sexual misconduct training and special training for the aquatics team. I don't really think that training worked. There have been reports recently of misconduct between the children, and the response was, I've never dealt with anything like this. I don't know what to do. And that's not the right answer from the highest level at a park. So, you know, I'm speaking in generalities, but these are things that I would like to see dealt with differently. And this seems like the forum for that. So that's why I'm here speaking.
Diana, thank you so much. I think it's parents like yourself that have asked us to make sure that we are, you know, expanding this conversation more broadly. And certainly, I think that the training that we have done earlier this year, that's just the start. And I agree, it's not enough. Training is essential. It's been, you know, what we heard from our aquatics unit. We have 300 members with the employees within that unit alone. You know, they asked us that they told us we need more training. For years, they haven't had adequate training and education and awareness, right? And so I ask you to be patient with us. We are trying to get it right. We definitely want to hear this feedback because this is going to help us improve what we're doing. In terms of, you know, what you're telling us about, you know, what you need more of at the parks, more balance of male and female. I know that we try very hard and we're trying as we're going out to recruitment to ensure that we are attracting all ages and all genders and all backgrounds to make sure that we have a diverse group. But absolutely hear you loud and clear. We want to make sure we're doing this. And also, I think one of the things that's important that you mentioned is that it may not be the inappropriateness between the employees. It's actually maybe the children that are in these programs. And so we need to be aware of that and cognizant of that. And that is the kind of training that we want to work with partners who are experts in these areas to bring that training to us so that we can empower the people that work for us as well as the public. But thank you. We really appreciate your comments.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Our next speaker is, let me just pull it. Our next speaker is Angie. If you can please come off mute.
Good evening. This is Angie. I wanted to start off with thank you so much. This is so nice that everyone's kind of joining and sharing their thoughts to enhance our city, as Chicago is definitely a beautiful city, but we can always improve anywhere. The reason I joined today, and again, many important topics, is I've noticed in the community that I'm from in Westridge, lots of schools have developed, added additional buildings because of just so many children in the community. In addition to that, so many senior citizens. And it's like just walking around the neighborhood and looking at various parks. And I'll just mention the one I'm specifically talking about is Lerner Park. It's run down. It definitely needs work. Last year they went ahead and they did something to the tennis court, but again, the kids, the senior citizen, there's no pathway for people to walk. People have made their own pathway out of the grass. The sidewalk that's there, because it's a partial pathway, there's like cracks in it and crevices, and somebody can easily trip and fall and hurt themselves. The benches have definitely seen the benches aren't in great condition, and the list just goes on. And I'm definitely feel that children, senior citizen, and people of all age should be able to enjoy. I look at communities like Sauganash, Wrigleyville, Wicker Park, Lakeview, and you go through their parks and you're like, or even just like little soccer areas, and they're amazing. And then it's like we don't have a bench for a senior citizen to properly sit on, or it's tilted, or even just a pathway to walk. So that really concerns me. And again, I know Chicago's a beautiful city. I'm an employee of Chicago myself. So I definitely know we are all very passionate. So I'd like to know what can really be further done to really get a push. I've contacted the alderman's office multiple times. I'm here now. I'm willing to do anything to kind of get the ball rolling. I know there's tons of money in the park district. So again, if anything could be done, if I can write an email, if I need to get more people involved, please just guide me in the right direction, and I will definitely put the work in to do so.
Angie, thank you so much for your comments. Certainly, can you just remind me the park? I thought I heard Warner Park. I just want to make sure.
Well, Lerner Park.
Okay, Lerner Park. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you for the comments. Again, I think it's through these sessions, we're gathering information, and we certainly have folks on our team here who work for a capital team who we can certainly make sure that, and I think Beth is on the call. Beth, if you can drop your email directly in the chat and reach out to Angie, or Angie, my email, superintendent.escareno@chicagoparkdistrict.com. You can also send me the information. Certainly we'll get it on our plan, our capital plan, making sure that we are looking at some of the comments that you're bringing up. But yes, we realize that there is work that needs to be done out there, and it's just got to be scheduled. It's got to be part of the plan, and we just have to make sure that there is adequate funding. But yeah, we're looking forward to hearing of ways that we can bring more money to the park district, and ideas are always welcome. But thank you for your comments. We'll go to the next.
Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Great, thank you. Our next speaker is Ramona Curry. If you can please go off mute.
Yes, hello. I've been very interested to hear all the comments and perspectives, and mine is going to be much simpler and pragmatic, and maybe that'll be a break. I'm not on an advisory committee. I'm, not a parent actively right now. I'm a parent of an older child, but I'm a senior citizen, and I love to swim, and I've swum for many years. And done aquatic exercises. And right now I go to Gill Park is the closest and enjoy that park in that district a lot, as a lot of senior citizens do. We were very disappointed recently to hear that it looks like most that the indoor pools will, as last year, be closing, but that also very few of the outdoor pools will be opening, and that only that most lifeguards will be concentrated on the beaches. And when we said, well, why not? Apparently, tell me if this is true, but I have it on pretty good authority from a Park District employee, that in most years there are 600 applicants for park for lifeguard positions, and this year there were a total of 80. And so I guess my real question is, and I could understand why there's, for various reasons, including the problems that have been, and the parents, our daughter was a lifeguard as a teenager, and I would not be encouraging her to apply as a lifeguard now under these circumstances. So I understand that, and there are other, kind of just employment circumstances, post-pandemic and all of that. But what is the Park District doing to actively recruit more lifeguards between now and the end of May? And is it really not possible that more of the outdoor pools might be opened, on Labor Day for the summer? I understand the resources are to be put more into some of the children's programs, and I would very much affirm that. That's the communities need it. But I've heard people say, what are we going to do? Buy wetsuits to try to go in the lake? We can't do that. And I mean, this is active swimming. This is not splashing around and playing, right? We're trying to keep active. And so what can we do? And for example, I understand River Park, where I went to last summer, is not going to be open, that the closest on the north side would be Portage, and that's way too far for me to go.
Is your name Ramona or Diana? I thought I heard Diana.
Ramona.
Hey, Ramona, thank you so much for your comments. And look, we are planning for a successful summer. We are absolutely, that is our goal. Our North Star is to have the entire Park District open. We will certainly get back to you. We have to, we are doing everything we can. We're going to have a huge recruitment effort. We're already working to sign up lifeguards and all summer workers that we have. So our goal is to have as successful a summer as we can. And so we're working towards that. You will be hearing a lot more about our recruiting efforts as early as next week, but certainly please drop your information in the chat. And I would just say that, we will be providing the information. I know that you're hearing different things from maybe staff. I would just say, allow us the opportunity to provide that information. We are just starting the summer recruitment, and we look forward to a successful summer this year and more information to come. So thank you for your comments. I appreciate that. Let's go to the next one so we can get through all the speakers, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So thank you so much. Try to keep your comments as short as possible so we can hear from everyone. Thank you.
Great. Our next speaker is Nick. If you can please come off mute.
Nick,
if you are still on, your microphone is unmuted if you would like to provide your comment now.
Sorry, are you able to hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. Yeah, thank you to the Park District for putting this meeting on. I'll keep my comment brief. I just want to say that I, as someone else mentioned earlier in this meeting, am concerned about the proposed plan to expand a golf course at the South Shore Nature Sanctuary that would destroy or take up a substantial amount of the existing public natural area there. I think in addition to the sense of accountability and transparency about employee conduct, I would love to see accountability and transparency to the community and what our communities need and what our natural areas need in a city that has so few of them. I would love to hear from the Park District what exactly the plan is for that space, and ideally to hear a commitment to protecting that space in the future. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for your comments. And certainly, please send an email. We're happy to respond to your questions via our email. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Our next speaker is Steve and Pat.
Okay, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, we're relative newcomers to Hyde Park area, to the city from the south suburbs. We arrived just in time for COVID. We do a great deal of walking and bicycling and so on in the area. It's one of the reasons we came here. And we're really disturbed by the amount of debris, junk, fishing equipment, trash, just the usual stuff, especially in the areas of Washington Park and Jackson Park, along the west side of Lakeshore Drive. We, as I said, we walk a great deal almost every day usually, and we often take out a bag and picker-uppers and gloves and stuff and try to do it. But, you know, for two people, it's an overwhelming, we just simply can't, we can't do pickup at the park by ourselves. And we're really anxious to get this taken care of, particularly, as I said, in the areas of Washington Park and Jackson, where, you know, spring is coming, it's going to green out, and we're going to wind up with stuff that's 10 times harder to get to because they waited too long to do it. So we'll just, that's really the basis of my our observation.
Well, Steve and Pat, let me just say, welcome to Chicago, and you could not have picked a better area to be in. And absolutely, we hear you loud and clear. I will make sure to work with our facilities team who are also on our chat here, making sure that they are you know, working on that. And absolutely, we will look into that. Thank you so much. And again, we welcome you to the city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Great, thank you. Next speaker is Al DeBonnet.
Yes, you can hear me. I pray that I did hit the buttons properly.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Superintendent Escareño, fantastic job. Thank you for enabling this opportunity. Again, my name is Al DeBonnet. You probably met me and a few others on the call. Heather Gleason knows, and most of the other board members and community members are part of Chicago Park District over the years. Alderman Hairston appointed me as a point person for working with the community regarding the restoration of the Jackson Park golf course, along with the harmonious integration of the Obama Presidential Center and the entire framework plan. I've attended over 130 plus community meetings, board meetings, HOA meetings, educational, Chamber of Commerce, and representing in totality all the community leaders thereof that represent about 10,000 community residents and stakeholders. They overwhelmingly support the restoration of this 123-year-old golf course that's non-ADA compliant, which probably would garner maybe $5,000 a day fines for not being compliant. That I won't go into that. That's showing my law background. But one of the things, the Nature Sanctuary folks, we heard them, and I can assure you, because I know the planning and the restoration plans, we can put a fence around the entire Nature Sanctuary area and not touch it. I can guarantee you that. You'll probably meet with those who are responsible. They were like this Tiger Woods, the biggest name in golf, who again wants to provide all the resources at his disposal for all the kids in Chicago. When he did the tour, he said, where are the kids in Jackson Park who can play free, but they're not here? What happened? We have $5 million in scholarships from the WGA for caddies, never done before. We've already sent 2. We're going to have over 100 jobs, over $200+ million in economic impact for the city for just one event if we did that for, say, LPGA, PGA, whatever it is. But more than anything, it is able to sustain itself without losing money that has been happening over the years. Now, because the course has not been brought to standards of 21st century standards, we've lost potential economic impact in the billions of dollars looking back. And if you do nothing, look forward, we're looking at billions. And I always ask anyone who does not want to see it, I said, show me, and please bring an alternative to the hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, billions of dollars to this footprint to the South Side that is so eagerly invested in downtown Chicago and North. Please give us another alternative. And they say nothing. I said, I too am a birder. I love birds. I can name them all. I'm a 4-H'er, so I can tell you about botany and all that. But when you only speak about that and not children, when they're dying in the streets, we don't have these opportunities for scholarship and jobs, then you've lost your credibility to speak ever again. And again, we can ensure the nature sanctuary is fenced off and not touched, not one blade, while everything else becomes upgraded. I can assure you, because the nature sanctuary was built because of the efforts of Alderman Harrison. And again, I thank you, Superintendent, for allowing us the truth to be spoken and for it to be enhanced. And again, this is easy one. Overwhelming numbers. You only get a few, the ones who speak loudest and keep saying it, but overwhelmingly tens and thousands plus are anxious to get this started and going. And it would be a wonderful legacy for you and the mayor to ensure that that is done. Again, thank you for your opportunity, for allowing us to speak, and have a wonderful day and a prosperous new year.
Thank you, Mr. Devenati. Next speaker, please. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Our next speaker is Chelsea Baylor. You can please go off mute.
Hi, Chelsea, if you're on, and also I just want to remind, we still have several speakers. It's almost 7:30. I just want everybody to be, considerate of other speakers. And so let's keep our comments brief and we'll try to respond to all your questions. Chelsea? Al, if you can mute yourself, and Chelsea, if Chelsea can't join, let's move on to the next one and then we'll come back to Chelsea.
Great. Our next speaker is Lori Burns. You can please come off mute.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for having this hybrid meeting for people who couldn't make it to the in-person. Really appreciate it. Uh-oh, can you hear? Okay, great. So just a few questions actually about OPA. You mentioned in the presentation that it's $670,000 for the first year of funding. So is this going to be an annual appropriation, or is it a temporary department?
No, this is a permanent structure, and it is set $617,000 to support the staff that is going to be supporting this new office.
Okay, and then what are the measures for success of the department? So will there be like an annual reporting? How will this work?
Yeah, so, we went through the timeline, but certainly I think the goal here is first, as we got into 2022, making sure that we had the resources to support this office, including the personnel. We are going to be working to make sure we get this legislation passed at the next meeting before the board in April. And then we are also simultaneously working to complete the positions and make sure we're posting them and having the office up and running by this summer. The legislation requires, as part of the transparency, that there be regular reports provided not just to the board, to myself, but also that those reports be made public via our website. And so other policies, operating procedures, and protocols will be developed as the new director and the staff come on board. So the ordinance and the legislation that we have presented to you all today is really what gives this office the authority and formation and really makes it official. As we hire the staff, then policies, procedures will be developed. So a lot of the comments that we are hearing will also be shared as we open this office. And then there will be more information once the office is established to ensure the public knows how to communicate and how to report and who is, where the office is, and all those details will be forthcoming.
Okay, great. And then my last question has to do with the mention of the upgrades to the beach houses. I think one of the other attendees asked about if the pools will be open. So this might answer the question. So would those improvements include the pools, or are they specifically for the beaches and like for Thule Park and Abbott Park specifically? We're years overdue for some of these upgrades to the locker rooms and changing rooms and bathrooms. So where does that put us with those projects?
Yes, Lori, and look, we do have a capital plan. We do understand that there are repairs that are needed throughout the system, and certainly something that we will be, working on as we move forward. But we wanted to make sure we paid special attention to the beach houses that had not seen any repairs in many, many years. And so we're starting there, but certainly more to come over the years. It's got to be built into our capital plan. And we realize that there are repairs that are needed, and we'll be working with our capital team to figure out how we proceed in making those repairs across our entire beaches and pool system. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Our next speaker is Nina Bell. You can please come off mute.
Hi, thank you for this meeting and for the opportunity to speak. I also live near Lerner Park. Someone already mentioned it. It's a lovely little park and it's very popular. And there are a lot of senior citizens that stroll in the park, but the paths need to be, the paved paths need to be updated. And you can only walk around 3 sides and then turn around and come back the way you came. So I would suggest on the 4th western side of the field in the park, in the big ball field, that a new path be created so people can make a complete circuit when they stroll. So I'm requesting the western side of the big open field have a path paved. And thank you for the time.
Nina, thank you so much. We appreciate your feedback. And yeah, somebody already mentioned Lerner Park, so it's on our list, but thank you. Your feedback is so important.
Great. Thank you, Nina. Our next speaker is Maureen Connolly.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. So I was a lifeguard from 2011 to 2013. And obviously, like, I witnessed a lot of awful things while I was there, experienced a lot of awful things. It completely derailed my college career. You know, I was going to be a teacher. I quit halfway through, and now I'm going back to school for accounting. It's been a really difficult road. I just was wondering what the reporting process will be like going forward. Will it be easier? How can you make it accessible to young people?
Maureen, thank you. And again, thank you for just, your bravery. And again, the reason why these sessions are so important is that we get to hear directly from people like you, and certainly want to make sure we're addressing your questions. And so what I'm going to do, Maureen, to make sure that I'm adequately representing exactly what we're doing, I want to invite Heather Kyle, who's our senior counsel, who has been working on the legislation. The goal is about being transparent, about making it easy for reporting, but not just making it easy for reporting, but to ensure that the reports and the investigations are thoroughly, fairly conducted, and that we are following through on these investigations. Let me have Heather just briefly speak on this issue, because I think it is so important.
Right. As Superintendent Escarino said, one of our goals with creating the new office is to make it easier for our staff, our patrons, our participants to know where to go to when something has happened, when they have a report to make. So absolutely, this office is where we are going to be directing anyone who's having an issue, with how they've been treated, misconduct in the parks, or for our employees, misconduct that they've been subjected to on the job. So yes, there will be specific policies and procedures that the new office will be setting up that gives specific direction to people about the different ways in which they can reach out to the office and submit a complaint. But we want all of our staff and our patrons to know that this office is specifically dedicated to dealing with these very issues and knowing how to respond to individuals who have been subjected to misconduct.
Thank you, Maureen. I hope that answers your question. We're more than happy to provide you information as we proceed. And definitely we will make sure that the public knows as we are phasing into the establishment of this office to ensure everybody understands what that process would be like. It will be publicly and widely disseminated so that everybody has the information that they need. Thank you so much.
Sure. I just have one last question. Will you be constantly surveying current employees, young people, to see like, what are we doing well? What can we improve upon? I just feel like there's no people my age in this meeting, and they should be here, but of course, like they don't know about it. But can you just make sure that you survey them constantly to see like, is it actually working,
Yes, and Maureen, I'm glad that you actually asked this question. So one of the things that I've been very focused on since I got here is really that public engagement, and that basically what I'm doing with all of you here is the engagement with our employees, with our supervisors, with our leadership, with parents, with previous lifeguards, because we want to get it right. And also I want you to know that the Office of the Inspector General continues to investigate. And so throughout the investigations where there have been, issues and claims that have been sustained, I have taken the recommendation of the Inspector General every time. And so we're working closely, and my commitment is to ensure that we are building an office that takes these complaints seriously and that they're investigated, but that there's also accountability. But I think you're pointing to something like, how are we improving? And so the goal of having an added layer of supervision is not just for accountability, but it's also to make sure that we're looking at everything with fresh eyes and trying to figure out how we continue to improve upon the programs like aquatics, which are so popular, and there are so many people that rely on them. So yes, absolutely, to your question.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chantel Wilkinson. You can please come off mute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Chantel.
Hi, my name is Chantal. I'm a young mother here in the Lakeshore East community, just north of Maggie Daly. And I just wanted to add my voice. First of all, just to say thank you so much for the programs and parks that we have here. We recently moved to Chicago, and the parks have been essential for our family in creating a community. I have 4 young kids, and have really needed the support that they provide, especially the early childhood education programs, because of how expensive the early child programs in the city are. Really, the Parks District has been essential for us, for my 5-year-old and my 3-year-old and my 7-year-old. Without the Parks District programs, we would have no other options because of the kind of income bracket that we fall into. And I do appreciate also just the community that we've been able to have here. And I was curious if you could speak to recently Jackie, and I'm forgetting her last name, the parks supervisor at Maggie Daly has left, and I'm not sure that her position has been fulfilled by somebody else. But I'm wondering if you can speak to the future plans of Maggie Daly's early childhood programs with her with her leaving.
Thank you, Chantal, for your input. Yes, we have heard about, making sure that we're filling that position. Just the supervisor actually took on a promotion and has moved on. And yes, we're working diligently to fill that position. We have current staff, including the regional manager who has been overseeing the operations at Maggie Daly. So we're making sure that all of the programming is continuing. And you should see no change in the programming into the future because we are planning for a back to normal year. And so I don't have any information about any changes to that. And we'll be working, we are already working to try to fill this position. So just, that's the input I can give you. We can certainly make sure that Farah, who is the regional manager, reaches out to you, and please feel free to go ahead and send me your information to my email, and we'll make sure that that we reach back out to you to just provide an update on the particulars of that park.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, and I'm glad all your kids are enjoying the program. So thank you.
Yeah,
great. And we have two more speakers tonight. Next is Scott Wagasbeck.
Thanks. Superintendent Escarino, thanks for hosting this second meeting. I just want to thank you first for speaking to this issue and making sure that people have the opportunity to weigh in. I feel that tonight's top priority is really the need to bring the Park District Code to the highest possible standard of protection. Tonight is about that protection. It's about eradicating the abuse and the power and the manipulation that we've seen come out in all the stories about our lifeguards, especially those like Miss Connolly who directly experienced it. And I do wish there were a lot more people here in these meetings to speak to that, because it's obvious there's a drain on resources within the lifeguard system right now if we're down this far. But I would just keep pressing you, and I know you're going to do it, to strengthen the OIG, to strengthen this Park District Code, to provide all the resources possible to protect all these young children, the women especially who we know have been abused, who work for the Park District, and all the children and adults who play here. And I hope you can continue along this path of protection and just show every Chicagoan that the top priority is really creating a much higher standard here and to bring us up to that level. I think we should all, as every city person, in every agency and every department, striving to provide the highest level of protection for all our employees and patrons. And I just want to know, want everyone to know that I know as superintendent, you've been trying to do that, to bring the staff along, to bring the board along, and that we as a city council will be there to assist in that and provide all the protections that everyone deserves in the city. And I just want to thank you for, again, hosting this tonight, and know that I'll continue to work with you as best as I can to make your agency the best possible. So thank you.
Alderman Wagasbeck, I just want to take the opportunity to thank you for going to our first and now our virtual. I also want to let you know that we actually had a very successful other in-person town hall meeting. But I want to thank you for your leadership and really for your support. And definitely, I think the reason why these conversations, including your input, is so important is that it really, we have to be accountable to the community and legislators in the city to make sure that we are doing good on our promise. And again, my job here since October has been to ensure that we are building a park district that is rooted in accountability, transparency, and respect. And to your point, most of all, respect and accountability to ensure that these issues never happen again. And so I look forward to continuing to work with you. I've said this is the first step, and I look forward to just continued improvements as we roll out this office. And just because we establish an office doesn't mean that it's the end. If we feel that more is needed, more changes and more improvements will be done. And I thank you for your partnership in this process.
Thank you, Superintendent. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We have 2 more speakers in order to be cognizant of time. I think we will cap it to those 2 speakers. If folks have additional comments, I will drop the superintendent's email into the chat again. Please feel free to send those comments directly to her, and we will make sure to get a follow-up to you. But our final 2 speakers, first, Daniel Ching, please unmute your microphone.
Hi, this is Daniel. Thanks for having this meeting. I was wondering if you could be more specific about how the OPA would be separated or like made independent so they can't be influenced by other parts of the park district if they're trying to have an investigation. For example, like who controls their salaries or like whether they're hired or fired.
Thank you, Daniel. I think this is very important. And I am going to ask Heather to come back and just to keep me honest with what is exactly in the code. But I will tell you that that there is language in the code that ensures that there is independence in this legislation, and that any influence by anyone, whether it's myself, members of the board, members of the public, other employees who try to influence this particular office or any member of this office who is working on investigations can certainly be subject to additional investigations by other bodies. So want to make sure Heather is providing that. But yes, they would be part of the park district. They would be staff members of the park district, but there is very specific language that prohibits the influence. Heather, do you want to expand on that?
Sure, yes. So the director of the new office of OPA will be reporting directly to the superintendent, but we have specified in the code that the general superintendent shall not prevent, impair, or prohibit the office from initiating, carrying out, or completing any of its investigations. And any violation of that requirement should be reported to the Office of Inspector General for investigation. The second way in which we're maintaining a level of independence and accountability for the office is through the regular reporting. Those reports, as the superintendent mentioned, are quarterly reports as well as an annual report to the board, where the board, can follow up and ask additional questions and track the work of the office. And then as well, these reports will be made public. So through the public reporting, the reporting to our board that is holding our administration accountable with the actions of OPA. And then the last piece is that OPA will also be developing relationships with community partners, including partners that work with survivors of sexual misconduct and sexual abuse. And we're looking for, feedback from those organizations as well about, telling us where they think that we are falling short in our efforts and where they see we can make improvements. So this is absolutely going to be an ongoing process where we are continuing to strive for improvement and best practices.
Thank you, Heather. Daniel, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. And then for our final speaker tonight, we have Jeanette Foreman. And again, if folks have any additional questions, please feel free to send those via email. And I also want to point everybody to the screen that you can also submit formal public comment on the on the code amendments to make the Office of Prevention and Accountability. Those are at chicagoparkdistrict.com/code-amendment-notice. So in addition to this, you can also reach out to submit your comment directly.
Good afternoon, or good evening, and thank you so much for doing this wonderful town hall. And I really appreciate the fact that we've had such good participation. The gist of my comment is really broader than the focus on the narrow Office of Accountability and Transparency. I am very interested in having us expand the idea of public input that can improve not only the security and so forth of the employees, particularly those regarding the lifeguards and so forth, but that we have a new day that will allow us to improve many things that we are very strongly needing, that is considered as a part of what the considerations of improving the park district are. I noticed that Laurie Burns, for example, spoke about the many years that we have not had access to improvements on the needed improvements for many of our parks, pools, and many of the other facilities. I am a member of Rosenblum, which is one of the only large parks in South Shore that has been used for years and years by seniors and by families, the pool that is. And we have had a whole year of not having access to the pool at all, and having the park closed on Saturdays. That is not within the interest at all of the over 60,000 people who live and depend upon our parks in South Shore. And so this is a consideration that I want to bring to your attention now, Superintendent, and be able to speak further about that in the context of how powerfully positive it would be to expand this kind of comment and have regular comments like this with the public. Thank you.
Janet, thank you so much for your input. And, you know, that is refreshing. I think for us too, I'm someone who is committed to just having this open dialogue. It's the only way we know how to make sure we hear directly from our residents. So thank you. And looking forward to this open dialogue in the future. Appreciate you.
And Superintendent, I do apologize. We have one more speaker, and I want to apologize for not calling on you earlier. Your name is listed just as M, and I thought it was a previous speaker that had already commented. So who individual listed as M, if you want to provide comment now. I apologize for missing you.
Thank you. I dropped what I was going to say in the chat, so I'll just reiterate it because sometimes it's easier when you hear it rather than read it. I was a former lifeguard, or a lifeguard from 1998 to 2003, and I grew up participating in the water polo, junior lifeguard, and swimming programs within the Chicago Park District Aquatic Department. The sexual harassment has been prevalent for decades. This is not anything new. I myself reported a harassment at 57th Street Beach, and the captain who harassed me was allowed to ride his bike to and from past my new assignment and continued to harass me. He remained an employee for the next decade. I will admit I did join this a little bit late, coming from a work meeting, but I really honestly believed it was a meeting to address the lifeguard scandal that was reported on so well over the spring and summer. But since we have talked about garbage pickup and golf courses and early childhood development in Lakeshore East, which are all relevant, they are not relevant in this forum. It is heartbreaking that the opportunities to discuss what was advertised, and if I was misinformed, I apologize, the lifeguard scandals, that's what this should have been about. Perhaps this is the reason that Maureen didn't speak up, or Maureen spoke up earlier when she was working there and didn't feel supported. This was 20 years ago for me, and it still impacts me every single day. And it's so eerily reminiscent of how I felt when I reported this. Completely unheard, and that's how I feel tonight.
So thank you for that. And first, let me just apologize on behalf of women like you that I've heard many of these stories, and truly, you know, it really impacts me as a woman. And so I want you to know that we actually started this meeting, and we've had certainly 3 town halls with this one, but we had over 10 conversations internally with previous lifeguards, with parents, and as well as staff around this issue. My presentation was all about the new Office of Prevention and Accountability and about our efforts since I became the interim superintendent in October to ensure that we're building, you know, a park district that is rooted in accountability, transparency, and most of all, respect. And so this office that is being created, that was the intention of this meeting. Of course, you know, I welcome the comments by all our residents who it is apparent that maybe they're looking for a venue to have their issues heard. But I want you to know that the reason for these meetings and all these conversations, the reason why we want to hear this feedback, especially from people and young and women like you, is because we want to make sure we're getting this right. And so I'm more than happy to share the presentation, you know, directly with you. If you want to drop your email in the chat, if not, just send me an email directly to the email that's been shared in the chat here. We will definitely make sure we're providing the entire presentation to you, but want you to know that we have not only had these forums, but we've also had ongoing conversations with many partners, experts like the Chicago Children's Advocacy Center, Resilience, you know, Mujeres Latinas en Acción, and organizations that are very, very much, you know, experts in the issues of protecting women and making sure that we are building the right protections into this ordinance. So look forward to more engagement. Happy to share that with you. But I want you to know that these meetings have been about making sure that we're hearing people like you and that we're building the office that will address the very issues that you've highlighted, because we know that they have been pervasive and problematic in the past. So we look forward to making sure that we're doing this and more conversations to come. But thank you for being brave and sharing your story. This really keeps us, you know, it keeps us focused on the mission at hand. So thank you.
Great, thank you. And to reiterate what the superintendent said, I dropped the her email into the chat. We'd be happy to share today's presentation, the actual PDF of the presentation, and any additional information on the Office of Prevention and Accountability and anything else that we're working on directly to anybody that reaches out for it. Additionally, this meeting has been recorded, so if you missed the initial presentation, we will be posting it on our website, on that same town hall website that you found today's meeting. We'll be posting that as soon as possible after this meeting. We'll also be posting it on YouTube. And again, I want to reiterate that anybody who is interested, please to reach out directly, and we'll be happy to send any additional information you have. Superintendent, anything else you want to say in closing?
Yes, I just want to say thank you so much for all of you. I know we've been on for a couple hours now. Thank you for your time. I thank you for your commitment, and thank you for your contributions. We can only do this with the input from all of you, and so we look forward to continuing the dialogue and more information to come from the Park District, including efforts to promote and to create awareness around our lifeguard program. So thank you all, and we look forward to more engagement. Thank you for your commitment. Good night, everybody.